listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Wrong Button podcast, Wrong Button Pod Show podcast. I can talk. Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm well, Chris. You ready for round two?
I'm ready. So we're going to talk about boss fights in this episode.
Really? You know what? That sounds familiar. I think we might have done that before.
We might have done that before. So you know what I was thinking? We've done that before. This has got to be the rematch that comes halfway through the game to test us to see how we're doing. So brief side story into that. I was at my mom's. We were recording. Your computer, your internet.
Oh, you
dropped.
at your mom's?
I was at my mom's when we were doing that. That's why
Gotcha.
I was like, it has to be at this time.
Oh, that's right.
And so you and I were recording.
Mm.
And then your mic cut out.
My laptop came unplugged is what happened.
Yeah, but normally Zencastr, because it does it remotely, so if it cut off the power, it saved mine, because what it would do is it would process yours on your side and then process mine over here and then save it. I actually had it going directly to a share drive. So that way if I was ever like, hey, I need you to assemble this and put this online, I could teach you how to do that and be like, you need to do this.
Dang.
But that being said, it cut out.
Yeah.
But right when it cut out, my stepdad comes up and is like, hey, I have a mixer for you to help with your podcast. Sets off my mom's dog, and it was just
everything went wrong.
Here we are. So we're going to readdress boss fights.
Hooray.
And what was the criteria? We went off the criteria last time. We went off like type of boss fight. How do we like it? What style of boss fight that we really enjoy? Boss fights that we love.
Yes.
Boss fights that we hate.
Correct.
And then like cliches and how boss fights are used within games, because I think that's a huge important asset.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I figured let's start by talking about we'll start off with like types of boss fights.
Alrighty.
And I figured we'll do this in like three kind of ways.
Okay.
We'll do mechanics. We'll do how the boss fight is integral to the story, kind of how it's done that way.
Okay.
And then I figured we would also then talk about this style of a boss fight and how the boss fight itself is constructed for you.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So the first one, we said mechanics. When you fight a boss, how do you like? Trying out that part. How do you like the boss to be kind of like introduced to you, and how you know you're gonna fight him? Do you like it to be like head on? This is a boss. I need to hit it, or do you enjoy some aspect of like Legend of Zelda, where it's like, okay, we went into the dungeon here. You got the slingshot. You need to shoot the spider, fall, hit.
Right. Well, it depends. I mean, it honestly just depends on what I'm in the mood for. Typically, though, I am a very impulsive person, so if I can just run in there, do as much damage as I can, and get out, I'm definitely going to. But, sometimes you just need a little boss. Oh, shit. I almost fucking destroyed our recording session again. But yeah, sometimes a boss that takes a little bit more than just mindlessly running up and smacking it with whatever the hell is fun too. I mean, tactics and strategy is certainly what makes games fun,
Do you like bosses? So the ones that I'm going to think of here, I'm going to say the word. I'm going to say gimmick. And there are several different ways bosses can be gimmicks. You can have a gimmick where, hey, you have to like go over here, hit this thing, and it's scripted. It does this. The boss takes damage. Go over here, do it again, and then you have to like do the final blow yourself. Or like I said, let's talk Zelda. We'll talk Darksiders and talk Metroid. I think those are gonna be the biggest ones for it.
Okay.
I don't think Castlevania ever has like too many gimmicks. It's still just hit it with a whip. How do you feel about that? Where it's like, okay, let's say we're in the middle of a dungeon, and in this dungeon we have to get XYZ thing in order to progress, and that's like part of our power up to go back to defeating the main villain, or defeating the course of the game and progressing through the game. How do you feel about that, where it's like your boss fight is also no, hey, we got to teach you this here.
I mean, that's always cool too. I mean that's what bosses are for, right? They're just checkpoints within the game that test your abilities and your skills, not only as the character in the game, but the person behind the controller actually playing the game. Going back to mechanics,
Then how do you explain Monsoon?
don't get me started. Still not over it.
You're fine. That's okay. We'll be recording next weekend and we can finish out the game and you never
Never
have
have
to
to
fight that asshole
exactly.
again.
Fuck.
So but bringing up to that, what about so we play a lot of games like when you do bosses going into like the whole mechanic and how they're constructed. Normally when you get to a boss, it's a there's a rhyme or reason of how you fight them. So let's talk let's just talk. We've been playing through Metal Gear Rising. The final episodes will be coming out in about 2 weeks from this one, so we'll have seen every boss in the game save for the final boss, and
two bosses.
But we've already seen one of the bosses. We've already fought Sam.
Oh well, there's 3 bosses left, 2 that we haven't seen, because you got to fight the Metal Gear and then you fight Armstrong by himself.
Oh, that's right, to fight that. Okay. But so in games similar to this nature, so when you construct a boss, like you said, it's the whole checkpoint system. It's where are you, how are you. Games like and a lot of games, what they'll do is traditionally it would be like, okay, Mega Man, Metroid, Darksiders does it, Zelda does it like pretty well, where it's like, hey, here's this new ability. Now you need to use this ability to fight a boss.
I like that. Especially, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. Go ahead. No.
Especially in like how the Legend of Zelda does it. Like you'll be in the dungeon and you'll be like, what's the dungeon item? Oh, it's a bow. Awesome. I can't wait to see how that plays into the boss. What am I going to have to shoot with this bow, to weaken them so I can close in and hit with the sword. I do like that. The anticipation of like, ooh, how is this going to play into this boss fight?
And I actually think that's really, really, really cool. Myself, I've seen it done very well. I think Zelda, you're right. That's a very strong ask of how to do this. And it honestly, when looking at, like, and sometimes like when you do that, like some bosses are very obtuse, right?
Yes.
The biggest ones I can think of are going to come from Dark Souls, but like going from, and when I said I wanted to circle back to Metal Gear Rising when we were fighting Monsoon. So in Dark Souls, you run into a boss, you go, oh, that's the boss, and then you get smacked in the face by it, right?
Oh shit, better look next time.
Yeah, and you do it like 2 or 3 times normally. Very rarely do you run in, and unless you're very patient, we'll talk about that approach later. Do you walk in and go, oh, hey, I'm going to go ahead and beat this boss?
Yeah, trial and error definitely is the name of the game with Dark Souls.
Which I personally love, because it does teach you something incredibly important. And like you said, go ahead.
I don't much care for that, but I understand its place, and I definitely see why Dark Souls has the reputation that it does, but I just can't get into it.
Because, and this is going to go back to that, Dark Souls says, hey, this is a mechanic, right? Dark Souls, the mechanic is like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Demon's Souls. You have your parry, you have dodge roll,
right.
You have critical hits, and then you have your stamina bar, right? That's we're gonna oversimplify it here.
Exactly. That is like at its core what Dark Souls is.
And you go into each boss fight and you smack the boss a few times and you go, oh, that didn't work. So you roll out, you dodge his blows and you approach it and you figure it out. In games similar to Zelda, like you said, there's an item like, hey, what is your quest? Get the item of this dungeon. Exactly. How will you do it? Beat the boss. And then you're done the boss, and theoretically you are now at your strongest point, and you're going to go to the end of the game with all of your strongest gear, and you're going to have to use a little bit of everything to fight.
Exactly. If not fight him, then certainly on the way to him, you're going to be using everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And playing Metal Gear Rising, the first boss is Rex. No,
Ray.
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 Yeah.
Um, and that's to be cool
Mm-hmm.
because
Cool
you
as
need
shit.
that.
Exactly.
The second boss is Sam, and that's to humble
Yes.
you because
Yeah, the Force Lost fight right at the
yep,
beginning of the game. Yeah.
you're hot shit. You ain't that hot shit, and then you get a cool
Exactly.
costume.
You're riding that high, and then you get instantly slapped back down.
You fight Blade Wolf.
Yes.
I guess he was kind of like block or parry or dodge. But
Block.
then
Yeah.
but then you get to Mistral.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, it's okay, you're going to fight her. This is going to be, hey, this is why you deal with ads. If you see these ads in this, you know you can get health. When you're fighting her, you can still block, and then it's like you still have to use the,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say judgment cut, but it's not judgment cut. You have to use the blade mode.
Oh, yeah. I
And
was like,
you
what the
do
hell are you
that.
talking about?
Yeah, judgment cut, that's a Metal Gear, or I'm sorry, that's a Devil May Cry thing.
Oh,
Um, that's the slash where you see the sword come out and you hear him sheath it, and then 8,000 things appear. And it's like,
gotcha. Gotcha.
that's
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Um, so you do that, and the and I feel like she has a place because you go, okay, well, if I cut this, I'm gonna do massive damage
Mm,
to her because now she doesn't have a way to guard, and you do exponential damage.
exactly.
You get to the Sundowner fight later, and you see that.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I never put those things together. That's basically the same mechanic. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's, yeah, all right.
And
Okay,
Sundowner,
shit.
like, he's like, hey, you have this cut ability, but you can't just use it willy nilly like you can for some of like like you need to use it right.
Precisely, yeah.
But Monsoon, right? The fuck is that fight?
Exactly.
It's the only fight where I'm like, in this game, it doesn't fit. I
I mean, he's sort of the one that doesn't really have any introduction because even Mistral, you see her pretty much since the beginning of her mission, but
mm-hmm,
you only see Monsoon like minutes before you fight him.
mm-hmm.
And he just kind of shows up and you're like, all right, who's this douche? Oh shit, he can separate himself. That doesn't bode well. Um but yeah, I've never really liked his character, honestly, even from the first time I played the game. I just thought he talks too much, honestly.
I also think like he pontificated to pontificate, whereas
Uh-huh.
when Sam did it to you, it was, hey, you're actually the asshole here.
Yeah, he's talking at you. Like Sam's talking to you, Monsoon's talking at you.
Mhm. But and so that's what I was thinking, like how out of place his fight is because you are you're not really learning anything,
Mm-mm. You
and
know what? Yeah. Oh well, that is the introduction of Ripper mode because there's that really story relevant stuff where I was like, oh, just wait, you'll hear their inner thoughts, and then
oh,
Raiden's like, I don't give a shit about their inner thoughts. I just want to kill him anyway. Um, so I guess it's sort of that, but maybe it could have been done better. It could have been like, I don't know,
if you
maybe,
had Ripper mode, it didn't matter if he separated himself, you could still hit him.
or something. Just,
Yeah.
I think he was just an excuse to have another bad guy, basically, just to pad out the cast, probably.
And that's honestly how it felt. Like that was one of
Mm-hmm.
the few bosses where mechanically, like I said, we went through how everyone kind of builds on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to Monsoon, and it's like, okay, so you get power mode. All right,
Mm-hmm.
like you're right, you go Super Saiyan. I'm here for it. But it doesn't feel like, unless it's supposed to be one of those, well, if you were to do it 100% correctly, he wouldn't even get to any of these other parts of the fight.
mm.
Um, but yeah, you and I, like playing through that, like cut it down. Like I think today is technically like the Sundowner fight, or next week is the Sundowner
Mm.
fight, and today is us beating Monsoon because it just wasn't to me a fun fight.
No, it's not a fun fight. The first fight, the second fight was a hell of a lot worse, but the first one was cool. I think because it had atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Um, So going from that, the next building off of, so we've done like the bosses that teach you stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the bosses, how they progress through the game. How do you feel about super scripted boss fights? Like you, my biggest one that I always go to is Resistance. If you watch the Resistance 2 Let's Play,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, that I do, you go to Chicago and you fight the Leviathan.
Yeah.
Um, and you see him. He's a giant kaiju looking guy.
Fuck yeah.
He's walking through the city. They do like the Jaws Godzilla thing where like you see a claw or you see his back or you see
Uh-huh.
like something there and then it moves and it's like you're like that's a weird shadow and it's like that moved.
That's not a fucking
Um,
shadow.
yeah, and it's absolutely outstanding. And when you get to the boss fight, and you finally see him. It's like grab that rocket. You shoot the rocket at its face to grab his attention.
Mm-hmm.
He grabs you and picks you up, and he looks like he's about to eat you. So you fire a rocket into his mouth, and he like backs away, like no, like that didn't taste good. That
Fuck my
hurt my
face.
tongue.
Yeah.
And that's what you do to fight him. And like he throws you. You have to like run through something. He tries to grab you in it, but it's a very um it's not a like if you don't do what it's talking to you about, so like let's say you miss,
Uh-huh.
he just slams his claw down on you and you die,
Is it
and it's
just
like
like
restart.
it's like a series of quick time events, or is it a little bit more like
Not honestly, not even quick time events. It's like
okay?
you have,
It's a little bit more
let's say you
organic
have
than
20
that.
seconds to fire a rocket at his
Gotcha.
face.
Okay.
um and he's a very cool fight. Like at the very end, like you end up blowing open half his face and putting a rocket where his brain, like in his cranial cavity
His
that you
head
created.
hole. Yeah.
And it's a really cool fight. Like when because they showed it off at E3 when the game was announced,
Mm-hmm.
and they were super worried because there's a spot when you're doing that mission
Mm-hmm.
where you run down like a turret of a building and he smashes it down on you each time you go down one, like the floor above smashes,
Right.
and he hits, and then like at the very bottom you could get caught on this couch, and if you get caught on the couch you automatically like he kills you and you have to restart the entire sequence.
Shit.
But during this build, when you did that at E3, if that would have happened, the game would have just crashed. They hadn't fixed it yet.
Oh fuck.
And it was one of those parts, and they show you like the fight where you get thrown, and it's a like I said, really awesome fight. And in that game, like there are about three of those. I'm gonna say there's the Goliath in the very beginning. It's a robot. He turns to fire the other way, and like you blow up one of the exhaust ports in the back. There's the Leviathan. And then there's honestly there's a Kraken that you fight, and
Oh
each
hell
one of
yeah.
them,
Why is that one
yeah,
not called
like,
Leviathan then?
huh?
I said, why is that one not called Leviathan?
Uh, because it looks more like a giant squid monster, so Kraken.
Hmm.
And the other one looks like a kaiju. Um, but I don't think kaiju were big enough that where people would have understood it if they would have said it's a kaiju class. Although I think somebody calls it a kaiju class. Anyway, but and they're very scripted fights, but it's a first person shooter, so I kind of give it
Yeah, a
a
little bit.
little bit of a pass.
You know what?
Um,
Boss fights are hard in first person shooters because they don't really. It's like I don't know. Well, let's do a little side tangent. How do you feel about boss fights in first person shooter games?
um, so the ones I've done it in, um, I've actually really enjoyed like when they're done thematically.
Mm-hmm.
So for Resistance, anytime you fight a boss, it's very thematic. I think the first game did it super well. The second game they were very scripted, but it
Mm,
was cinematic, and I gush about like how they layer and how they every time you fight a boss, you never you like I defeated the boss, but you didn't win. Like
right.
it, like sure you wasted a ton of ammo, and by the way, you couldn't stop the thing.
Yeah.
Like
The
it
city is dead, but hey, at least you blew a hole in its face.
yeah, exactly.
Way to go, dum dum.
And then the third one, when they made you like go back through it and fight bosses, they did a few bosses and they were really fun. It felt like they had health. It was like you
Mm,
have to get behind him, you have to hit him in a weak point. You
yeah.
got and I enjoyed that. And I thought they were really good. I am going to be honest, like I think I prefer bosses in third person shooters
Mm, hmm.
where there's a little bit more mobility.
Exactly. And like you
Um,
can like you get like a bigger. You're not restricted to the first person point of view. You get a bigger pick. I think I like third person shooters more, honestly.
oh, I'm 100% with you. I think I enjoy playing a third person shooter because it has that character action aspect to it.
Yeah, you can see your person.
For instance, just to be completely topical, I got you. I made you download Outriders.
Yes.
Um, and I was playing that last night, and I've got like you and like actually two other people who are like, "You got it?" Like, whoa! And I'm like, "Yeah." Um, and you get some powers because third person shooter.
Right.
Um, future World War I setting, by the way. Um,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, you're gonna see parts of it, and you're gonna be like, "Huh, this is just World War I
that's
in the
interesting.
future on another planet." Uh,
Sounds cool to me.
it's really cool. And you fight some mini bosses in that one early on, and I was soloing it
Hmm.
last night, and they were genuinely hard. Like some of them were very simple,
Right.
some of them were like fuck. Like
Fuck.
this is a challenge. And I absolutely loved it for that. Whereas when I'm thinking about my first person shooters, um, Resistance, the Resistance franchise, I actually loved all the bosses that you fought.
Hmm.
Um, and some of them were just rooms, like it was just like a room, but you had to blow up certain aspects of it. I'm
Right.
still going to count that as boss fight. Um, and then the other one that I was really thinking of, uh, that like Borderlands, I enjoyed the bosses there.
I completely forgot about Border. Holy shit. Oh my god. Yeah, Borderlands.
Yeah, because they have a
Fuck.
fantastic like you do damage to them, you have powers,
We should play
you
that.
still want to draw aggro from them, and
Yeah.
like it functions like a if you've played an MMO, if you've played a co-op game where you have a really strong enemy, it does very well.
Exactly.
Um, but then I go to other games. As much as I love the Killzone franchise,
Mm.
because I have played Killzone 1, 2, 3, Shadowfall. Uh, each one of those games has tried to do a boss,
Uh oh.
and to a certain extent, it's cool. To another extent, it's a massive failure, and I think that it's one of the games where it's like we're gonna do a boss fight, and it's
I
and
wish you
I
hadn't.
want to be like, you know what? I wish you would have just been like, hey, if you kill this guy early, fantastic. It's like, okay, he's dead. Let's clear the room,
Hmm.
and it would have been great. But the fact that you said no, he's gonna take more health, he's gonna take more damage, and at
More
no
time,
point
just
was
essentially, is just the issue there.
and
Just
yeah,
taking
and
up
there were
time.
ways to one shot them, but it wasn't good. After that, I was just like, no, this is not a it's not an enjoyable boss fight.
Hmm.
What about you? What
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Deus Ex because that's the only thing that I've been thinking of this whole time.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
um
Specifically, I can never remember the fucking subtitles. Which one is the
uh
first Adam Jensen one?
that is Human Evolution.
Human Evolution. Fuck. I love that game, by the way. I need to play those games again. Um,
We're doing it on the channel, so you might want to get refamiliar with it.
hell yeah, I love those games. Um, yeah, the boss fights in the first one I thought were really fucking cool. Um, because they're also, I mean, it's also like a story-driven game, so I don't remember, but there were like some ways where maybe you can like talk your way out of it, but you could definitely like, I don't know. I've always played like I always spec into like speech stuff in games just so I can like, I don't know, talk my way out of fights or whatever. Um, but yeah, I love the boss fights in um, Deus Ex.
I loved him in the first one. I did not enjoy him as much in Mankind Divided.
Same. I enjoyed the game as a whole better in Mankind Divided, but I like the bosses in the first one a hell of a lot more because they had character.
Yes. Um and
Oh,
and that's a big part of that, and we'll use this to go back on. I was going to say the other boss fight that I'm going to say I super loved.
mhm.
And I know that you weren't as a big fan of the game. Gears of War 1 when we were playing it, the berserker who was
Was it
blind.
that obvious, huh?
Hey, I'm going through I'm gonna finish out the series. I've already done 5. Like I'll stream tactics. I'm gonna finish 2. I'll get to 3. I might do Judgment. I love that franchise
I
for a
know
lot
you
of
do.
reasons that I gush about.
It was cool. It just wasn't my thing.
Oh yeah, but when we had to fight the berserker, and it was like she's blind.
Was that the one in like that little like totally blanking. Where was that in the game?
That was the first one where we had the Hammer of Dawn. So like we had to
Okay,
lure her through the building.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
And she was blind, so it was like, okay, be quiet. Hey, I'm gonna shoot at her from over here, so she runs at me,
Mm.
and it took us a little bit to get through it.
Yeah, I was about to say that took some coordinating on our part to try to get through.
But I thought it was a super fun fight, like mechanically, to be like, hey, are you playing this game as co-op? Because we want you to play it as co-op.
Exactly.
Where are you and your partner at?
Right.
So we'll go back on track after doing the tangents there. And let's go into another mechanic here for you. And since we've already done that, how do you feel about those? Because you said you spec yourself in a speech. Boss fights. I'll do some into speech so I can get like specific things. So if I can like do what have you, but I like Deus Ex prime example. I did stealth, and I did stealth and like lethal.
I did like lethal and like diplomatic sort of. I guess for lack of a better word, diplomatic is probably the best.
Game gorgeous boss fight, correct? Yeah, you're gonna fight the main bad guy. How do you feel about games then where it's like even Mass Effect where all of a sudden it's like, okay, the boss fight now becomes this conversation?
I guess all I can really say about literally anything is if it's done well, I'm cool with it. But if you're just like if I'm like mid hit and then you stop to talk to me, I'm gonna try to skip through the cutscene, and I'm not a skip through the cutscene kind of person. So, I mean, if it's story relevant and if it's poignant, I guess it has a pass. But I don't know. It just let me get on with the fucking fight. I mean, we've gotten this far already. Let me just kill you already.
But let's say like so like not even like interrupting. So let's say Deus Ex, right?
Oh shit.
You walk into a room. And the boss is there.
Okay.
And if you choose the right dialogue, your dialogue's high enough. Your boss fight is just that conversation. Like you either talk them down, do that.
Oh, fuck. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
You're good. Yeah, I mean that's cool too. I mean, I think the last time we tried this, I brought up New Vegas as an example and the final boss of that game, and how he can just be completely dismantled with a high enough speech skill. Excuse me. And it's kind of cool the first time, but on subsequent playthroughs, you're like, I kind of actually want to fight him this time because it's a cool fight. But if you have the speech skill, do it. Why not?
Now, one of the things, because you brought up New Vegas, so I'm going to go to Outer Worlds, right? Outer Worlds, they gave you boss fights that were speech. However, it never was like this ends the boss fight. This is like, okay, I talked to this person and now we're done the boss fight. Like he realized the error of his ways and I'm good. But what they would do is you could talk to people and then you could be like, look guys, we're on the third planet here. You've had 6 other bases and I've killed everyone in there. And that was like your persuade, but then everyone would take a massive debuff. Or they would be
okay, I see what you mean.
Would you, because like for me, like because I enjoy the boss fights I enjoy a good boss fight, because you're right, I don't, if I can talk my way through everything, I want to do it once.
Exactly. And then I'm like,
but
well, that was
I
cool.
never want to do it again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless we're like trying to show it off and be like, this is really cool, because then it would be like, okay, let me save before this. We'd show it off for the let's play,
yes,
and then be like, okay, let's do the boss fight. Unless the boss fight was utter garbage. Like if we could talk Monsoon to like stabbing himself in the face.
Oh fuck yes.
I'd have been like, hey, can Raiden talk him into stabbing himself in the face? Right. Go into Ripper mode, cut somebody up, and then be like, stab yourself in the face. Like I would almost rather always be like, you walk into a room and you know you have such charisma and so much blood on you that the people in there are like, I don't know why we think this is going to go better for us.
I like that. So more specifically into like dialoguing my way out of things, I love going with like intimidation routes. So like Renegade and Mass Effect, just like straight up just being a douchebag in games is fun.
Oh gosh, what's the one where you meet the guy at the top of the tower and he goes, "Do you have anything else to say to me, Shepard?" And if you hit RT for Renegade, you just kick him out the window, like forward kick him out the window off the floor. And if you don't, the other guy does for you.
Shit, I don't remember that part, but
it's Mass Effect 2. Oh god, it's a really good one. And if Shepard does, he goes, "How about goodbye?" And you kick him out the window.
Oh, Oh yeah, it's just some fucking grunt, and he's like, if you shoot me, my people are gonna hear you, and you're like, all right, you just push the fucker out the window.
Although, yeah, otherwise, like Garrus does it or somebody else does it and goes, "What?" um, okay, so you like it. Now. We're gonna go more into construction because, like, so we've done there where it's like you can either talk your way out of it,
Mhm.
or you can talk your way into like a massive buff or change like the way it flows. Boss fight mechanically, we both have kind of agreed like, hey, I enjoy how am I going to use this item in order to beat this boss.
Mhm.
Um, and that one I've seen it done very well. I've seen it also done in ways I'm like, this still makes for a pretty boring boss fight. Um, but the next one I'm thinking of, do you prefer life bars or do you prefer like three, four like I'm gonna say hits, but it's just like a quick flow. For instance, Zelda, Mario,
Yeah.
you jump on them and then they and like it's like okay, this was that sequence. Now he's gonna do like the harder dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Next. Do you have one that you prefer more?
Yeah, life bars are always more fun, in my opinion. They always seem to last longer because, like, you can blaze through. Let's just take Mario for example. Like the first boss of a Mario game is no shit, probably like 15 seconds of your time. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just it'd be weird as shit if Bowser just came up with a fucking life bar and you'd be like, "Hang on a second, this isn't within my 3 hits rule or whatever." But yeah, life
Or you
bars.
take out a third of his life immediately?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, life bars are cool. They usually stick around a little bit longer and have you know more to them.
Because like even like if we're going off of the 3 hit rule or the I don't mind the like mechanic of hey, you're in this room and you saw that lever over there, run over there and pull the lever and maybe it drops a crate on them and so you
Right.
can get extra hits in. I'm actually here for that. So
Me
it
too.
and it can still be something that's like hey, have the Spider-Man does it constantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you play a Spider-Man game and you fight the Rhino,
Mm-hmm.
you always, in order to do damage, you have to get the Rhino to run into a wall. You combo his back, he gets out, and it's typically like a third or an eighth, depending on your optimized combo.
Yeah.
Or or there's an electric whatever,
Right.
like a random Tesla coil sitting in front of
Uh-huh.
you, and you make him run into the
Thank
Tesla
goodness
coil.
this is here. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're in a bank. Why do you have Tesla coils? Like they were on sale. I don't know. Home goods, man. What are
Yeah.
you gonna do? Say
I
no?
don't know. Costco had a deal.
And he hits that. He gets electrocuted. It does damage. He's stunned for longer, and he's already taken more damage.
Mm.
Um, or how like because that would you call that like a gimmick fight?
Not necessarily. It's just using the environment to your advantage. Well, I mean, if it's always, like you said, if it always happens, then at that point it's probably a gimmick. But while you were talking about that, I was trying to think of like some other, I guess, environmental ways to take out enemies. And I did think of like a good example of one, and it's an MGS5 when
Okay.
you fight Quiet. Um and like she has you pinned down because she's like a super awesome sniper and shit. But from your position, like when shit starts out, she's in a really good position because
Uh
she's
huh.
kind of in the open, but kind of not. But if you manage to dodge her fire long enough and call in a supply crate on her position, it'll fall on her and do like half of her stamina and damage.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So let's we're gonna use that. We'll use that actually as a really good segue here.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna talk. We're gonna talk about real quick about progression boss fights, right?
Okay.
And I'm gonna use Metal Gear Solid
Mm-hmm.
because that's gonna be the easiest one for you to do. I'm personally gonna draw off the Yakuza franchise.
Okay.
How do you feel about reoccurring boss fights throughout games? So when I say this is in Metal Gear, Sniper Wolf, Metal Gear Solid. I don't
Oh,
remember two. Metal Gear Solid 3 though, it was the
the
end,
end.
and then
And then
5
and
it was quiet.
5 is quiet. Yeah, there's always like some sort of sniper. Um Oh, and there was someone in 4 too, Crying Wolf. But she didn't have a sniper rifle. She had a fucking railgun.
I mean, come
I
on.
mean, yeah.
It's a
It's a
railgun is a
fucking
sniper rifle.
railgun. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's
Look,
precise.
if they can fire their railgun in Virginia all the way down to like super far and hit something in a football field super far away, like I'm gonna call that a sniper rifle.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not gonna
cool.
call it. It doesn't explode, so you can't use like, well, then you can call a grenade launcher a mortar or sniper. No, it doesn't explode, guys.
It just hits really goddamn hard.
And if you fire a Barrett close to somebody and you don't hit them, you can still knock them over.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna be
So how?
totally on. Oh, right. I was about to say I'm gonna be totally honest. I forgot what we were talking about. I did not. Um, I don't know. I've always sort of liked the obligatory sniper character in the Metal Gear game because they're always just they're kind of cool.
But
Sniper Sniper
go ahead.
Wolf was a good. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go.
Sniper Wolf was a cool. She was a cool character. She didn't really deserve to die. The end was just cool as shit because he's fucking
So many interesting parts of him.
forest grandpa. Yeah, fucking he's a goddamn fairy or some shit. Um, and then Quiet is cool, although she didn't need to be naked.
That's how she breathes.
Yeah,
That's how fishing holder scopes us.
that's what they say.
Yeah. Look, I'll take an excuse. Look, I'll
Yeah,
sniper waifu. I'll take an excuse.
yeah, I guess.
Um, but okay, so to like more specifically for that one. So let me go to Yakuza real quick.
Hmm. I think I know who you're going to talk about because I just played. I've played a little bit of one of the Yakuza games.
Probably Zero.
No. Oh, fuck me.
Is it the one where it's like a JRPG?
No. No, it's one of the Kiryu ones.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. But is it the
Okay.
guy with the eye patch are you about to talk about?
No,
Majima?
oh, Majima.
Yeah.
No, Majima. I could talk about him, but he is your Jetstream Stam.
Mm.
And he comes back and he fights you a few times. But so in I'm gonna specifically go in Yakuza Zero.
Okay.
I think it happens a little bit in one. No, one is your foil. Sorry.
Zero is
But
the one that takes place in the 80s, right?
yes,
God, I need to play that game. Fucking Tokyo in the 80s.
you really. It might be free on Game Pass. You do.
I think all of the Yakuza games are. That's how I. Kiwami, that's the one that I'm playing.
Oh, you're playing Kiwami?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one that I just finished streaming.
Mm.
Because I'm on Kiwami 2 right now.
Gotcha.
So, in Yakuza Zero, which I highly recommend, like it's go back and play Yakuza after Kiwami play Yakuza Zero.
Okay.
Yakuza Kiwami 2 it's a good story,
Okay.
but it has some funk to it. And if you watch any of the stream footage, you'll see immediately when I say it has some funk to it, especially coming off of Kiwami and Zero. Anyway, in Yakuza Zero, the final person that you fight is one of the other guys vying to be the patriarch of the Tojo clan and the Dojima. He wants to be the next lead of the Dojima family, who would become the next chairman of the Tojo clan, right?
Gotcha.
So for those of you guys who don't know, think of it. He wants to be the next general and then become the president. There you go.
Oh, you could have kept it even simpler. It's just organized crime. You just wanted to be the boss.
Yeah, but there's like the boss, and then there's the boss, and the boss.
Yeah.
He wanted to be big boss.
Exactly. Organized crime has like some weird like ranking system to it.
Private through sergeant to crime lord. How do you get to that? Like, where's the middle part? But the guy you fight at the end, and I'm losing his name. Hang on one second. Anyway, Kiryu is known as the Dragon of Dojima.
Dojima, yeah.
Final boss, Yakuza Zero. Shibuzawa. So Shibuzawa is the final boss, and in Yakuza Zero, a fight is serious in the Yakuza games when Kiryu takes his shirt off.
His fucking shirt off, and you see his tat. Yeah.
Yeah, and in real life, if someone did that, I'd be like, "Oh fuck, this is a serious fight. I'm gonna do the same thing."
I need to leave right now because I'm about to get fucking murdered.
Yeah, it like and I love the aspect of it. He has this gorgeous dragon on his back,
Mm-hmm.
and it is his it's his soul manifested in art on his back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super here for that. Play the Yakuza games if you want to hear some like really interesting lore about Japanese tattoo and culture. Um, so at the end of that game, you go into a fight with Shibuzawa, and you learn that he's the one who's been pulling the strings all time, right?
Mm.
And then he goes, and then Kiryu goes, "Why are you doing this? Like, why me? What happened?" And he
Poor
goes,
bastard.
"Because
This dude's fucking can't catch a break.
yeah." And he goes, "Because there can only be one dragon of the Dojima clan." And he
Hmm.
takes off his shirt, and he has a dragon on his back, and you fight him, and you both use the dragon style,
Oh, nice.
which is the final style for like all the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the final. And I'm like, because it's you. You're fighting a more perfect version of yourself, unless you
Exactly.
did all the extras for that game to unlock all those skills, and it's highly worth it.
Hmm.
And then in two, there's a villain in it from a rival company. I'm sorry, from a rival family and a
Company.
rival clan called the Omi Alliance, called Ryu Gyoza or
Okay.
Gyoza, and he is known as the Dragon of Omi.
Wait,
And
which
you're
game is
sitting.
this? Two,
This is
you said?
Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Kwame 2. Okay.
Um, and at one point, like super early on, you're in a cabaret and you're sitting across from him, and the other guy and one of his guys goes, "Do you know who you're talking to? You're talking to the dragon of this."
Mm-hmm.
And he beats the fuck out of the guy. And he's like, "Do you know why I'm doing this to you?" And Kiryu stands up, and because Kiryu's like inconspicuous, no one knows who he is for some reason.
Right.
He
He's
goes,
the man
"Because
who never smiles.
he literally sits there and goes, because he called you the dragon of this." And the guy looks at you and he goes, "And you apparently want to be more." He wants to be, he goes, "No, there can only be one dragon. I want to be the dragon."
Mm.
And it's a very, very awesome, like, when you there are side stories about the tattoo artists, and
Oh,
you
nice.
always want to do them.
That sounds fucking awesome.
And yeah, and it's a really cool thing. Especially Kiwami. When you hit the part about Kiwami, maybe we'll talk a little bit of Yakuza.
Mm.
And you'll know when you hit the part of why it's so important about the tattoo culture. Um, but it's this thing where it's this reoccurring villain of, you're gonna fight the dragon. And for this game, it's you're gonna fight you. You're gonna
Mm.
fight like a perfected form, or you'll fight him in the beginning, you fight him at the end, and you're theoretically you would both have all of your powers, and
Right.
he's kind of your mirror fight every time.
Interesting.
What do you think about uh like bosses like that, where it's the same boss, but it's not the same boss. It's somebody new. They're just the same manifestation as a
Well,
recurring theme.
I mean, that's kind of cool then, because it's kind of like a legacy at that point, you know? Where,
A legacy. Oh, that's cool.
um, I don't know if this analogy is going to make sense, but you know how like the thing where people say that like, oh, James Bond is not his name, that's his code name, and then
Yeah,
like
I think I told you that.
you didn't tell I knew that before. I'm glad
Okay.
we're on the same page though.
Yes, I absolutely love that.
Okay. So it's sort of like it's not the same person every time, but like the legacy of that. What's the word I'm looking for? That thing that like the dragon in this case is like it's like, oh shit, that's who that is now, and the next game you're like, oh shit, that's who that is now. It's cool if it's like it's a title, I guess is
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say. Anybody can wear the title, but you have to earn the fucking title.
Um, the
Ooh, here's a good example.
uh,
In Afro Samurai, the number one and number two headbands, anybody can be number two, but to be number one, you have to be number two.
yes. Oh my god, that's a really good pull there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Um, yeah. But that's just one of those things. Like I absolutely, because I think it happens like two or three more times in the Yakuza franchise.
Mm.
And then in the new one, Like a Dragon, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen again there.
Mm.
Uh, I wasn't sure, like, if it was one of those things like even if it's not the final boss, but if it is a boss that you can fight. Because Majima, the one with the eye patch, he's always typically showing up
What's
and
his
you fight him.
deal? Like, I can't get a read on him. I've only seen him in a couple of cutscenes, but I think I've decided that I don't like him.
You need to play Zero.
Okay, gotcha.
Majima's thing is
Should I just like say fuck it to Kiwami and just start Zero now?
um how many hours are you into Kiwami?
Like 1.5. He's
Okay.
I just got out of jail.
Okay, fuck it. Yeah. Stop that. Delete it. Go play Zero and then play Kiwami.
Okay.
It's a because you saw how heavy that was when you go to jail, right?
Yes. Like holy
Fucking
shit. Fucking
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I said. He can't catch a fucking break.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me, it goes places.
Fucking
It's
got jailed for 10 years for a crime he didn't commit.
yeah. Yeah. Go play Zero. Zero is very cheeky and tongue in cheek, and it does its best to make fun of the Yakuza franchise,
Oh
and in
shit.
doing so is great. And maybe what we'll do when you're caught up,
Mm-hmm.
uh, when I get to Yakuza 4, we'll stream that. We'll try to stream that a little bit together.
Okay.
Because that'll give you perspective to Majima, because Majima is your foil. He is also your limit break, where he's like
Mm.
every time you fight him in Kiwami, because there's a system called Majima Everywhere,
Yeah.
and what you have to do is you have to go to certain areas at certain points in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and he will just randomly fight you,
Hmm.
and you have to continue to beat him. And each time you beat him, you get another part of the dragon stance. And
So when you said that, I'm sorry, you can continue. My point is less important. I'm sorry.
every time that you fight him, you get a part of your old self back.
Ooh.
And that's his
Okay.
thing. He goes, "You're not the dragon that you used to be." He goes, "And I don't want to fight you in this sad, pathetic, out of jail self that you're in. I want to fight the
The
dragon of Dojima."
dragon. Gotcha.
And that's what
Interesting.
he's like.
So is he aware of his own role as like a test for you and he's okay with it? Or is he just trying to beat you?
No, he tells you he wants to fight you, but he's also like he wants it to be satisfying. He is
Gotcha.
Vegeta.
Okay, I gotcha.
Except he will actually whoop your ass a few times.
Right?
Whereas, like, you're not going to Goku out of it unless you pack in a shit ton of health drinks. Sensu bean.
Exactly. Sensu bean.
And speaking of which, so we're getting down. We've kind of tangented on some other boss fight
Oh
things.
well.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing there, because like I do want to do this as like a celebration, because you and I have, like, we've now played a few games together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a least favorite boss fight, like a boss fight that, like, out of every game, everything, it's like, nah, fuck this boss fight, like the mechanics, everything, and you never want to see it again?
Not that I can think of, but there has to be one. Every game, there's a part in every game where I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to fucking do this shit. But I can't think of one. You answer that question, and I'll try to think a little bit harder on that.
So mine's actually going to be like one of the next things we're going to be let's playing in the near future, Darksiders.
Okay.
I'm a huge mark for Darksiders. I enjoy the combat. I enjoy the gameplay, the story, the lore, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Darksiders 1.
The lore. You mean Christianity?
Oh, trust me. We play that game, we're going to go into that. Don't you worry. I will go into the mythology of Christianity. Please don't demonetize us, Mom, when you listen to this. Love you.
Question mark.
But the bosses in that game, and especially the first one, in the 2, 3, and especially in Genesis,
Mm-hmm.
they have this amazing job, and they come back, and you tell they earn their stride. Whereas in the first one, the boss fights, like, some of them are cool,
Mm-hmm.
some of them are very well done, and then other ones that you do are just like, there's like one or two, like, oh, this is actually a really cool fight, and then the other ones are just like, they are literally a Mario boss fight, except you have a combo, but
Sounds
you're
annoying.
pretty much guaranteed to get the combo off, and then the fight's over, you've beaten it, and you move on.
Mm.
And I gotta say that's probably one of the like.
It sounds like it's just like the game's phoning it in at that point. It's like, yeah, here's a boss, have fun.
I don't even want to say it was phoning it in. It was just like because they had mechanics to it, and you're like, oh, I see what you're going for here, and they're the boss fights that are good that I actually enjoy. I will tell you, they are great boss fights.
Okay.
Because they're a ton of fun. But I think the biggest one here we talked about last time is at one point you have to fight yourself, a literal darkness within yourself, and then you're like you do that and you understand that like you equate it to Shadow Link last time.
Oh, okay.
I
remember you talking about that now.
And I'm like, oh sweet, we get to fight us.
Mm-hmm.
And you beat the pants off yourself.
Well, that was boring.
And yes, and that's exactly what it is, and it's probably the worst boss fight in the game because if you've done things right, when you get to him, it's just like okay, well, here we are.
Yeah.
However, in the second game, you fight War in a shadow form as the first boss, and you can beat him pretty easy. But he has all of his combos, and he'll sit there and combo the shit out of you if you're not paying attention. And I was like, oh, you immediately said, hey, we know this was weak in the first game. By the way, here it is as the first boss fight in this game, and it felt very good.
Hey, there you
go. So that like I would say like that's one of those boss fights. Like the first game, I'm like the bosses in that game are some of the weakest I feel like I've ever seen and ever played. Like the ones that are good. The ones that are bad are really bad, and like or the ones that are good are just okay. Is how I would phrase it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that game is just kind of like middling, isn't it? It's just average. I know you like it. I know you like it, but like generally, it's sort of like received lukewarm by people, is it not?
Yes. Okay. I like the series. The first game, yes. The second, third game, fourth game, all hit their stride, and I'm very excited for the next one.
I was about to ask you, are they making any more?
Yes.
Why? They ran out of horsemen.
No, each one was covering like the horseman's journey.
Okay.
During the time frame of like the first game.
Oh, no shit.
Because the first game you're War, so where's everybody else?
Okay, I didn't know that.
That
makes sense. Okay. So
it's really good.
So essentially all those first 4 games are just one game, and now we're moving on to the sequel. Okay.
Yes.
Oh. It's interesting.
What about you? Do you have one?
I have been thinking, and it's not a boss fight in specific, more of like how the boss conducts himself. I don't like a boss that's going to test my patience. And I know that sounds like super specific, but let's just go for example. Last time I tried to do this, you brought up the one boss from Bloodborne, the one little bitchy one with the cage on his head who just runs around the
labyrinth. Yeah, I lost his name. The Nightmare Menaces, I think it was.
Whatever the hell his name is. Yeah. So just things that are going to be running away, things that are just going to be like chipping at you, like not giving you an in. My patience is really thin generally. So when something's just kind of tap dancing on my last nerve, it really doesn't sit well with me.
No, that's one of those boss fights. Like, sadly, you can't skip it. In those games that you can, are done. Like the ones that you can skip, it's like, why would you skip this fight?
Yeah.
Like you can if you get the complete edition of Dark Souls 1. And I said this last time where it's like go fight Artorias first.
Oh, and then
go do the DLC so that way a later fight in the game is even better.
Big sad dog.
Yeah. Oh my god, it so hurts. All right. So then we'll end this. So we end this on like a worst. Let's end this on a best. If you had to go like, you know what, this is a boss fight that I will save a game and keep a save state just to fight this boss.
Oh man. I'm gonna have to go second again. I'm sorry.
So for me, it's still Beautiful Joe, the first one.
Okay.
Beautiful Joe, for those of you guys who haven't played, your guy gets sucked into a movie world.
Holy shit, that's what that game is about?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You get Sentai powers.
I knew that.
So you transform into a Sentai or a Power Ranger for the most part. However, all of your powers are movie based, so you have the ability to speed up, which your character throws punches really fast, and then you watch mock versions of like him flying out and doing punches, and he'll hit other villains on the screen. Or you can slow down time, in which you'll like if someone's like shooting at you, you can just run forward and you'll matrix flip through them all.
Nice.
And if you hit someone, you do a lot more power. There's a boss in that game, and he is the Shadow Joe. And
ridiculous name.
Oh yeah, it's very Japan, very platinum.
Yep.
And what happens when you're fighting him is if you like go like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and slow down time so I can dodge this attack, and then I can uppercut him. He will do the speed up power, so you're still moving at normal time.
That's pretty cool how it just counterbalances whatever the hell you're doing.
And so you'll have to like stop out of that, but then if you do, and he does it more in a way to like really wear down your because you have a like limited ability to do that. Like you have a limited magic.
You have like a gauge, yeah.
And so he'll wear it down. Now his can also wear down. So you have to like really think about how you're doing it in order to make it happen. But that's like that one's always been one of my favorites to, and then you like the reveal of who he is just such a good time because it's one of the few times where it's like, okay, he's not just doing the same move or he's not just like perfect parrying you. He's also being like, and I'm going to take away your resources. And I think in a game, especially like coming off of like Dark Souls, when like the hardest bosses are the human bosses, the other knights.
Yeah, the ones that are, person sized.
The ones that like they have your move list. Are they using the same weapon you are? Congratulations. They have that same move list you have and they can counter it. And I love those boss fights because now it's the end of Zone of the Enders where like at the very end it's like, okay, who's better? It goes, well, both the frames are equally matched. And if you played the game like crap, she goes, the situation doesn't look good, or it's like we don't stand a chance, or she goes, it's all up to fate. And I think it's all up to fate was like the most positive one that she gets you because
shit, that's not even that positive.
Yeah, it's a welcome to Kojima, but
yeah, right.
That is from Beautiful Joe. That is my favorite, and it's one of those boss fights. Like I want a Beautiful Joe HD just to go through and get back and feel that again because it was my first like action adventure, and I can still remember it to this day.
Nice. Well, unfortunately, I had something, but I've lost it, so I'm just gonna have to go with a broad top again. I like bosses that aren't just sort of like a come and go sort of thing. I like bosses that are, of course, fun to fight against. I mean, you gotta hold my attention. I like bosses that are specifically story relevant. That's going back to Metal Gear now that I'm thinking about it, actually. That's why I do like the bosses for the most part in that game, is because they all have a purpose of what they're doing in that game. Sam, not so much, because we don't really see him doing anything. But Sundowner, you always see him like around those brains and shit. Mistral was doing something in Russia. Monsoon was talking out of his ass. But they're all... I like bosses that have... I don't know. Well, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it too, I guess I like bosses that are part of a team, because that's like another layer of like complexity to them. And Metal Gear does that a lot. I'm discovering things about myself as we're talking, so this is cool. So the Cobras are cool in MGS3, ending with the boss. Oh, you know what? I might have just had a revelation. The boss might be my favorite boss of all time.
When he becomes Big Boss, or when Lady Boss?
Fighting the boss.
Okay, fighting
at the end of MGS3 might be my favorite boss.
Huh.
So scrap everything I just said. I'm gonna go with the boss because that shit, it's everything I just said. It's story relevant. It's a good fight, and it's poignant. It has a purpose.
Going off of that, like Sam, I think Sam's big thing is he is supposed to, in the beginning of the game, he shows you, hey, you ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to him at the end of the game, he kind of gives you the master sword of, it's not the sword that's great, it's not that made him better. He literally
the person, he was just better. Yeah.
And I think by the end of the game, he he goes, okay, you have been humbled, and now you understand that, like, you understand who you are and what you are, and you've accepted that. And when you
Hmm.
fight him, I think that's his point, is as a player, he's a very straightforward fight, and he goes, what do you have? Now do it well.
That's interesting.
um
Yeah, I never really saw him as that. I just sort of, I guess I just saw him as like, the handsome one of the team, I never really. That's a very interesting way of putting
Thank you. I put a lot of thought into these.
it.
No. I like your bosses on the team. Now you said bosses that like come back and reoccur. When you say that, do you mean you also like bosses who say they leave and then like you fought them, they're like ha, like they
That's
leave
a
and come
cop.
back.
That's a cop out. If you're like, haha, now smoke grenade. Pff, no, don't do that shit. Like, at least like knock me on my ass first before you get out of here.
Um,
Um,
how about, I know we're going a little bit over here.
that's
How about then? Because we talked about this roughly last time too. How about bosses then that are constantly growing with you? Because you and I, we talked about Pokemon.
you know what? I just had a good thought, but yeah, keep on going with what you were saying.
Um, Pokemon, when you fight bosses in that game,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to count the Elite Four. I'm going to count specifically your rival. In the
Mm.
first one, you always come to your rival, and your rival's like two gyms ahead of you. I think he's always a
Oh,
couple levels ahead of you, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to like fight him.
yeah. I remember talking about this last time. Yeah,
Whereas, how do you feel about bosses like that though, where it's like you beat them, but it's always, and I think I think honestly in uh when it comes to that in I'm trying to think. When it comes to that in Pokemon, like Pokemon Sun and Moon are the only ones that I think do it any real justice. Where the
oh,
kid comes up and says, "I'm ready to fight you," and the entire time I'm like, "Dude, I am seriously such a bully. Like, stop trying to battle me with your Pokemon. I'm going to kill them one day."
it's even worse in Sword and Shield if you can believe that shit.
I remember you saying
Yeah,
that.
it was, and I remember saying last time that Blue and Silver and maybe Wally are like the only rivals who are worth a shit.
Yes. Um, or no, yeah, Blue, Silver, and then yeah, Wally,
Yeah.
um, are the only, and it is one of those where, uh, I think Blue, when you beat him, it's like he's just very arrogant,
Yes.
and if
He's
you,
too cocky to accept his own defeat.
but I also think if you weren't grinding and like min maxing and going like, well, what are you gonna have? Like, if you weren't building a diverse team and just like me, where I'm like, I just want fire Pokemon because I'm a loser.
Exactly. The
Um,
ones that shoot fire are cool.
yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
uh, or it's like I like the way these look, and it's like you have like four dark Pokemon, two fire. Like, what are
And
you hoping
go
to
fuck
do?
yourself.
And then you have a Ninetales that's, you have two Ninetales, one fire and one not. Like you're a glass cannon. Why? Um, yeah. So how do you feel about those bosses where they have constant progression with you, and they're almost like the, you should be this strong in order to go from this point on in the game.
I like them. And what I did think of that I did not bring up last time, and I'm actually kind of surprised because I've been playing this game a lot, is in the Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, the Nemesis system.
Okay.
How you can supposedly kill someone and then like 3 hours later they come back 5 levels higher with like a fucking eye patch and you're like, hang on a second, that name looks familiar. Wait, that face looks a little bit familiar. Hang on a second, I killed you like 3 hours ago. What the fuck are you still doing here? So I really like that aspect, how like the orcs that you kill sort of level up with you, and like even when they're dead, they're not necessarily dead, you know?
Um, how do you feel about that one then, where it's like, let's say the boss beats you, um
Okay.
uh and Demon Souls, the second to last boss that you fight,
Mm-hmm.
has an ability where he does a command grab. So he
Shit.
lunges at you and grabs you, and he steals a level from your character. So let's say you're level, 65.
You're
He
64 after
grabs you,
that.
you're 64. Now the thing is, he doesn't permanently take the level away from you. When you die, the
Mm-hmm.
level drops on the floor like it would normally, and you
Okay.
see it, and you can pick up those souls. You just have to go respend them. But if you die
Mm.
on the next boss encounter, he will those souls vanish like they would otherwise,
Uh-huh.
and he has permanently de-leveled you unless you go back out to level back up. And if you lose,
Wow.
8, 9 times,
That's 10 levels gone almost.
yeah. And now the boss technically hasn't gotten stronger, but he's made you so much weaker.
He
So how do you
feels a lot
feel?
stronger, yeah.
How do you feel about games where that's the level of punishment that it would give you for a boss, where not only is this boss, one, a hard boss to fight, but two, he has the ability to either, one, become stronger like the Nemesis system,
Mm-hmm.
or two, he can take away your abilities and take away your strength, and now fighting him is that much more challenging.
I think that's super cool. The thing about, what was, you said Demon Souls?
That was Demon Souls,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, that should sound super cool. But I have a own little personal anecdote about the Nemesis system. In Shadow of War, there was like some like random ass grunt orc who killed me, and I was like, "All right, shit stain, you're on my 2 kill list." And then he kept killing me, and he kept getting stronger and stronger, and I was like, "Okay, what I need to do is I need to go off on my own, level up, come back to this motherfucker, kill him." Because at that point, he had killed me so many times. He was like 10 levels higher than me, and I was like, "This is only going to just get harder." So I do like that. Someone like enemies are growing with you, and I don't see it a lot, which is why I think I do like it so much, and why I apparently have a lot to say about the Nemesis system.
No, it's one of those, like, when implemented well, it can be great.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you could see the disaster.
Exactly. And I think they did do it well, which is, very good, because I think those games absolutely would have been kneecapped if that mechanic was bad.
No, and that's a fantastic note to end on. So, winners,
Cool.
let us know, what type of bosses do you guys like?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a boss fight where you guys go like, nope, can't stand this? Do you have boss fights where you're like, hey, actually, this boss fight, or like anytime I see something like this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally here for it. And let us know in the comments below. You can also find us next week. We will be finishing out the rest of
Mm.
Metal Gear Rising, and we will
Hopefully
then be
Halo
returning.
too.
What's up?
I said hopefully Halo as well.
Hopefully Halo. Well, that'll be 2 weeks from now, because we'll finish up Metal Gear Rising. We'll finish that,
Oh,
and
okay.
then we'll delve into our new games. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at The Wrong Button, as well as catch us on our live streams, typically Mondays and on the weekend, between Mrs. Play and myself, or just myself, and hopefully in the near future, Nick, for some Yakuza fun.
Wahoo!
Yeah, but thank you guys so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that you guys are all winners out there.
And I'm glad
Keep
it
it weird.
worked this time.
Me too.
Yeah.
I am too. Remember, you're all winners. Keep it weird. Have a good rest of your day, guys.
Bye.